just a quick chat about the channel, where I'm going, and what you can look forward to in the near future. Hi, welcome back to Not So Obvious Watches. I'm Pete McConville. As I said earlier, just a really quick chat on the channel, where it's at, where I'm going, and some things that are coming up in the future. So very briefly, I've really enjoyed doing this more conversational, less formal, less production oriented kind of content. You seem to have. The feedback's been excellent, so I'm going to keep doing it. I do find it kind of liberating to get out from behind the computer a bit. So that's especially now in a COVID-19 kind of environment where in previous life I would get to walk around and interact with people. Now my whole day has shrunk to largely sitting at a desk in front of a computer, and this channel was making that almost worse. So this, as I said, sitting outside under the awning in the back of my garage, not garage, getting out of the garage, sitting under this awning in the backyard is much nicer, and I'm going to keep doing it. Okay, so some of the topics I've got coming up and that I'm working on. First off, a state of the collection. I've never really finished it. Heads up, the reason why I've never really done one is because I'm really struggling to know what my collection is. I've watched in the space of a couple of weeks, we've seen 2 state of the collection videos from 2 friends of mine, 2 people that run far more successful channels than me, Adrian at Bark and Jack and Jody at Just One More Watch, and they take, in a sense, their state of the collection videos capture the tension I'm in. As far as Jody's concerned, he has all the watches he owns, many of which he bought for channel reasons or for some other reason, and then within that he has his collection. Adrian's point of view is every watch he owns is part of his collection, but within there's the ones he wears versus the ones he has for other reasons. I've been actually wrestling with that for some time, and I haven't actually landed on my final answer yet. When I decide what is actually my collection, then I'll do my state of the collection video. Should be in the next couple of weeks. The next one I'm going to go back is, I'm going to do some revisiting to things I did about a year ago to review, do I still feel the way I did back then? And the 2 I'm going to look at most importantly are my deal breakers and deal makers. The things that stop me from buying a watch and the things that make me want to buy a watch. A year on, a year of making this sort of content, a year of really hard thinking about watches in a way I haven't in the past, I wonder if it's changed the way I look at that. The next thing is, I've promised you my part 3 of the Breitling series, looking at how I've already spoken about the brand, I've spoken about what they're doing in terms of their catalogue. Now I want to look at kind of the watches that are within their catalogue, and are they going to make the change they wanted to? I've got that done. That does involve a lot of sitting in front of the computer and editing, so that's why that one's being a bit late. Another question I've been asking myself is, are we fair to AP? AP has become infamous for being a just one watch company, the company that the Royal Oak ate. And I wonder if that's entirely fair, and I'm going to have an interesting contrast between AP and another brand, which, if you boil down to it, is really only a one collection brand, but cops no crap for that. What else am I going to talk about? Oh, my continuing series about the importance of brands and the importance of story. So far I've spoken about how brands are important to us, and it's about this issue of their story, how it impacts on us. Next I want to talk about how a brand story can be really, really complex and involves us and a level of engagement with us, picking and choosing the parts of their story that we decide to value and use that as a decision to attach ourselves to a brand. That will lead me into my next video, which is something that came up in a lot of comments. I made the comment, I didn't chase it down, that I don't really connect with the Rolex brand. I don't want the Rolex story to become part of my story. A lot of you were very curious about that. I do want to address that. I'm not being coy. I'm perfectly happy to talk about it, but I want to do that having discussed the importance of story, the complexity of story, and then why I get to that point. I want to kind of have a theme running. So I will get there. I'm not fobbing that off. I want to talk about another thing I've been thinking about the more I've been looking at watches and this, again, this story of this idea of story and branding and where things fit is, who is Omega? What's Omega's story? I mentioned earlier, we kind of give AP a lot of crap for the fact that, you know, they're kind of the company that the Royal Oak ate. But I find myself thinking, are Speedmaster and Seamaster actually bigger brands than Omega? And has Omega kind of allowed itself to be overtaken by those two of its watches to such an extent that it actually struggles to make traction anywhere else? So something I sort of noted, and I'll be sort of poking around for a little bit in probably I'll get to that one in a month or two. What else? As a YouTuber who is not American, I have been finding the fascination of this kind of social media with Hamilton and Timex really curious. If you watch YouTube, you would think that Hamilton is this huge, ubiquitous brand. You know, you can't buy one in Australia. They're not actually carried in shops. You might find the odd specialist here or there, but they're actually not a big brand. Kind of the same goes with Timex. And I do wonder if we get a skewed vision of the size and importance of some of these brands, not because of the number of watches they sell, not because of the quality of the watches that they sell, but because a lot of the social media that we consume comes out of a very specific market that those two brands are huge in. What else do I want to talk about? I'm preparing some ideas around the idea that specifications are not important, that we vastly overplay the importance of specification, and that we, as a side note, we vastly underestimate the importance of design and how something looks. And I think the reason for that is because, like everyone, we tend to try and make important the things that are easy to measure and easy to talk about. Specs are easy to list, design and aesthetics are not. And then because they're hard, because it's hard to talk about design and aesthetics, we tend to just put a line through them and say it's all subjective, therefore not worth talking about. I think that is completely arse about, and I think that just because it's hard to talk about design, we shouldn't ignore it, and in fact we should focus more and more on it, because you know what, you don't need me to find the specs. You can look up a website as well as I can, which would lead me into a discussion of value. I've been finding that people overvalue value enormously. In response to some of my recent Breitling videos, people were openly saying that they would choose a watch they preferred less than a Breitling because they could save $200 or $300, maybe $500 on a $5,000 purchase. Now, to me, that is a form of insanity. Now, I understand you guys might have different value systems. You guys might value things importantly. But I think as a community, we have got in, again, it's kind of related to this idea of specs. We've kind of over-egged the idea of the deal and lost sight of the fact that we're supposed to be buying objects that make us happy. Which again touches on another issue that I've been exploring, and this one's been the hardest one that I've had the least progress on, and this is the one that's made me go out and do the most research and deal with, like I've actually done something I don't like doing. I'm not, funnily enough, I run a YouTube channel, but I'm not a particularly extroverted person. I don't like going out, and it's quite difficult for me to make contact with people. I've actually reached out to a couple of brand owners and been so well supported by them, trying to figure out what quality means. How do we measure quality? I think again, the social media world does this extraordinarily poorly. And I want to try and deal with that a bit better and make that something of a discussion. I might have to, that's probably going to be a really big issue, so I might I've got to find a way of breaking that up and representing it. Yeah, so that's basically the kinds of things that I'm working on, and you'll start seeing some videos over those. As you can see, I actually have a book. Hang on a sec, I'm just looking at now. I carry this with me everywhere. I'm a kind of a journaler. I find it's really good for my mental health. And what I do is whenever I have one of these ideas and I start squirreling it down, I start writing it and I start coming up with notes, and then I sit down and do research. That was my cat, if the screen just jumbled around. I've got, one of the problems I have is I have so many ideas, I actually find it hard to chase down into something to put into a video. So what I'm going to be doing is not doing less research, but I want to be kind of breaking my videos up, making them shorter and sharper, and instead showing a journey along the way on those topics. So you might not get as polished an answer, but you'll get to sort of see me walk through these problems. Anyway, that's it. If there's anything else that you're interested in, if you've got ideas about those sorts of topics, if there's anything else you think no one else is really looking at, but would be really interesting in the watch world, stick it in the comments below, and I'll have a think about it. I make no promises to look into it, but yeah, I'd love to know what you think we watch social media aren't covering that we should be. See you later. Bye.